I've been thinking about rest a lot recently. I caught a cold, or maybe a flu. I caught something, our Christmas Eve service, and I was sick all the way through New Year's. Our caring committee here brought me some food that was delicious. And I don't know about you, but I don't mind resting every once in a while. I think I could sleep for 10 hours a night if I were allowed to by life. But I sometimes, usually, feel guilty when I am resting. There's so much to do, so much to get done. Even when it's so obvious that my body needs rest in order to heal, I feel like I should be able to do more, to keep working. As a child, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, and I was called things like daydreamer and space cadet and dilly-dallyer. I was called less endearing things like lazy, inconsiderate, unmotivated, and inattentive. In truth, I cared quite a bit and had plenty of attention. I was just paying attention to things that other people weren't. I loved getting lost in an art project or being outside with no goal except to commune with nature. But as I grew up, there was more and more I had to do. First more homework, and then more housework, and then work. And it seemed as if there wasn't even enough time to sleep, let alone stare out a window and let my thoughts wander free. I felt hurried all the time. In my early 20s, I came across a quote attributed to Lao Tzu. "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." This struck me like a revelation, the idea that everything could be accomplished without hurry. It seemed like a radical concept. I was depleted from trying to do too much, too quickly, and I realized that slowness is good for me, and it is a valid way to be. I identify strongly with the slow lizard in our story from this morning. I'm allowed to go slow. I never wanted to forget this valuable reminder, so when a coworker from the office at the time invited a group of us to go out to one of those paint a pre-made ceramic piece, those kinds of shops, I immediately knew I wanted to put this quote on my coffee mug to remind me every day to go at my own pace. My coworkers and I went to the studio after work, and we took our sweet time. I layered different colors of green, experimented with leaf stencils, and even painted a little snail on my mug to remind me of slowness. My friends and I chatted and dilly-dallied so effectively that an employee came over to remind us that the shop would be closing soon, and we needed to wrap up if we wanted to get our mugs in the kiln. I quickly added the finishing touch to my mug, the Lao Tzu quote around the bottom, and our mugs were baked overnight. We went the next day to pick them up. My mug looked gorgeous with its layers of green, but there was a problem. In my hurry to finish, I had left out an H. The quote on my mug said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." At first, I was mortified, but I came to love this misspelling. I was never very good at spelling to begin with, but this was a good reminder that mistakes happen when I hurry, and that I am not at my best when I go against my nature. The mug is long gone now. I wish I could show it to you, but the lesson remains. We all go at different speeds and have different capacities at different times in our lives, even different days of the week. But when we try to do more than we are capable of, more than our capacity, we do ourselves and each other a disservice. Tricia Hersey, in her book Rest is Resistance, talks about the hustle culture of America. Hersey is known as the nap bishop. She started religiously napping in seminary to reclaim the rest that her enslaved ancestors were denied. Those of us with different ancestry may have a different role to play in dismantling hustle culture. We can model an alternative to hustle culture by doing our work deliberately and with spaciousness, allowing for mistakes and for grace with each other. We can reject the goal of imperfection. Reject perfection. Embrace the goal of imperfection. We can remind ourselves and each other that burnout is not inevitable. Our modern day society is structured around exploitative expectations. We get the message that we have to be doing something in order to be legitimate, be worthy, survive. Hustle culture is found in almost every sector of our society, from factory labor to cutthroat executives to the academic warning of publish or perish. If you're not overdoing it, you're not doing enough. Unitarian Universalism has the opportunity to provide a counterculture alternative. Ours is a theology that says whoever you are already worthy. You are already enough, no matter what you've done, what your abilities are, and what your to-do list looks like. You don't have to work to earn God's love. And we aim to embody that same unconditional love as a people of faith. Unitarian Universalism is less concerned about what happens in the afterlife and more concerned about what we do in this lifetime. Humans are capable of creating hell-like conditions here on this earthly plane. We are all too familiar. But we sometimes forget that we humans are equally capable of creating heavenly conditions on this earthly plane as well. Our faith calls us to do whatever we can to bring about that beloved community, that heavenly existence here on earth, with and for each other and our descendants. This part of our theology is sometimes summarized as loving the hell out of the world. And so, we fall into the same trap of hustle culture that the rest of society does, don't we? And why wouldn't we? We love this beautiful, aching world, and of course we want to do everything possible to help it. But it's overwhelming, and it never ends. So how do we keep up? When I feel like the work is endless, I remember lessons I learned from my years farming organic vegetables. The spring rains make weeds sprout faster than the crops do. In the summer, vegetables seem to ripen faster than we can pick them. And of course, something is always breaking. The irrigation system, a tractor, you name it. There is always more work. Most of our farm bosses had us in the field at dawn and working until the sun set, which in August is something like 9 p.m. Then one year I worked for a farm where the bosses had us arrive at the same time and leave at the same time every day, every week, year round. When I asked about this difference, The boss told me the work will never be done. There will always be more to do in a day than there is time in a day. So if you don't choose a time to stop and just stop, you won't have a life. And if you have no time to enjoy life, then what are we doing all of this for? And he spread his arms wide, taking in the barn and the rolling fields, the precious, gorgeous food that we grew to sustain life, the lives of the people in our town and our own lives. You can't get rich as a small farmer in this country. It can't be about the money. It has to be about the life. Like farming, the work of building beloved community or loving the hell out of this world, that work is never done. But if we are overwhelmed and frantic, directionless and negative, if we are not enjoying this life, then what are we doing all of it for? If we are pointing out everything that is wrong, instead of living into a positive alternative, then how can we attract others to join us? If we want to build a better world, we must lead by example. If you want to make a lasting impact on something, we have to let go of the idea that we can do everything. That doesn't mean that any cause is less important than it was before. But the truth is we cannot do everything we wish that we could. Accepting our human limitations frees us from hustle and anxiety and rush, frees us to choose more deliberately what we will do. Building a deliberate life requires some effort because it is counterculture. And it involves letting go. Letting go of perfection and control, letting go of a dream that you can make an impact on everything you wish you could. If you're planning to not do everything, you can deliberately choose what you will do and allow others to do what best suits them. Deepa Iyer, in her book Social Change Now, provides a visual framework and a set of steps for addressing social injustice and responding to the unprecedented crisis of our times. Iyer describes something that she calls the social change ecosystem. In any natural ecosystem, no single organism does everything. A mushroom has a very different purpose than a sparrow. Each organism has its own unique gifts and special way of doing things, but we can think of them in some broad categories. Foragers, predators, scavengers, decomposers. Each role is needed for a healthy ecosystem, and the same is true of the social change ecosystem. Each of us here in this room has our own unique set of gifts and special way of doing things, and Deepa Iyer has identified some broad categories or roles that our gifts can fit into to make up the social justice movement and help it be more effective. We need visionaries, builders, disruptors, and healers. There are 10 such roles in Iyer's framework. And as with any ecosystem, each of these roles is distinct, but also connected to every other role. Looking at Iyer's social change ecosystem map, it became clear to me why so many of us feel overwhelmed by the state of the world. It's impossible to respond to everything, and we want to fill all 10 roles. We need disruptors, and we need caregivers to watch the children while the disruptors are out in the streets. But each one of us cannot do all of those things, and we shouldn't have to. I wonder what role you might feel drawn to. Maybe even 2 or 3 roles, as an earthworm is both a decomposer and a soil aerator, but please, not 8 or 10. Overscheduling ourselves and taking on more than we actually have capacity for leaves us rushed and depleted and will inevitably cause harm to ourselves and to others. When we deliberately choose to do 1 or 2 things instead of 5 or 6, we're able to act with more agency and with more care. If we allow for spaciousness in our lives, we are more clear-headed, more patient, better able to model right relationship. This deliberateness is a gift that we give ourselves and the world. When we take time to ask ourselves what our particular role is, if what we are doing is really what matters and is most aligned with our values, passions, and skill set, then at the end of the day, we can trust that whatever we did this day was enough. Perhaps even the best way to spend this precious 24 hours. What peace of mind that provides us. What a welcome alternative to ending every day feeling like I didn't get enough done. My hope is that we can all engage with intention and spaciousness, that we can give ourselves and each other permission to relax and reject anxiety and hustle culture while still getting the work done. I will close with a quote from Tolkien, perhaps a sacred text for some of us. It's the moment in the Fellowship of the Ring when Frodo is overwhelmed and grieving the violence and destruction that he has witnessed in his world. He says to Gandalf, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." "So do I," said Gandalf, "and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for us to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us."